what we think we learned is that you can have too much water in your mix, and that will cause your concrete to be weak. But in our sampling, we didn't see a lot of difference between our wetter, soupier mixes and our more dry mixes. This is on our wet mix models. So I'm going to still mix by hand because there's really not clear instructions on the bag. If you're not going to mix a whole bag, it says 6 pints of water for a whole bag, 80-pound bag. I'm obviously just doing enough bags to fill up a couple of cylinders here. So I'm going to do it similar to how I did on the previous experiment, and I will keep it as dry as I can. I will get them in the mold. What we're going to do differently this time is the moist curing. That's our goal, because what we think we learned is by moist curing for a minimum of 3 to 7 days, you dramatically increase the strength of your concrete. If you moist cure for 28 days, you get the maximum strength. So we're going to moist cure our wet mix samples as soon as we can get them out of the mold, here possibly today. And then we are going to moist cure our dry pour samples, maybe even still in the mold. So what I did learn from our expert at Patriot Engineering is that sometimes they actually submerge the samples while they're still in the mold, just to get the moist curing going as soon as possible. So I did perforate the bottom of these molds for the dry pour sample, and I will set them in a paint pan here. It's in the screen. I'll set them in this paint pan, put a little water in it so I can soak water up from the bottom, and then I'll water from the top as well. And we will try to get these firm enough to get out of the mold as soon as possible. If we can't get them firm within a day, then we will probably go ahead and submerge the entire mold in water, because that first 3 days is critical. If you're not moist curing in that first 3 days, then you are losing 50% of the strength of your concrete. So, and that's what we saw on the wet mix samples last time versus the dry pour. The dry pour is 50% less strong than the wet mix, and I attribute that to the fact that we could not take it out of the mold for 2 to 3 days because we could only water from the top. So we'll see. This experiment is moist curing. My goal is to get 4,000 psi out of my wet mix samples, and hopefully 4,000 out of my dry pour. Okay, gonna mix these as dry as I can. Put a little water in there. Use my mixer. Okay, I don't know what we can see, but that is that's just basically still powder. Okay. All right. So I'll put these in the mold. This is it's not runny, definitely. That's what it looks like. But I don't think that was a make. All right, I'm gonna shovel into my mold here. Now, I did read that when you're filling your mold, you should tamp it around as you fill. I know my samples were pretty ugly before. Hopefully I can get some good looking samples with no air in them. I will fill all the way to the top. Are we in the picture? All right. Okay. There is number one. Now from the same mix, we'll do number two. Okay. Okay, these are okay, these are the wet mix samples. And we will get these out of the mold as soon as possible and submersed in water. There we go. Here, a bubble right there. Okay, we are hoping for 4,000 psi on these. We'll see. Now on my dry pour, I am going all the way to the top this time. I am going to tamp it down as we would in the screeding process. Get it good and packed. Now when I use my vibrating screed tool, it packs it so firm you could almost walk on it. Usually get a little firmer than that. Okay. So that's what we've got. A good, it's not as firm as I get with my tool, but it is packed in there. More than I did the other samples, for sure. Okay, so here's what we're going to do on these dry pour samples. We are going to water from the top and the bottom. I'm going to mist from the top, similar to what we would do on a slab, with the mist setting on your hose. And then I'm going to allow it to soak up water from the ground, from below, simulate that. Still at a disadvantage because instead of having a 4.5 inch or 3.5 inch slab, you've got 8 inches to try to soak up from there and from here and get down to the middle. So still not a fair test for the dry pour, but if we can get them underwater, then we might catch up. See what we're doing here. We're just misting them from the top.